Howdy folks, and welcome back to the channel. Today in this beautiful winter wonderland, we are going to tackle one of the most crucial aspects to a successful hiking or backcountry adventure, and that is nutrition. Whether you're a seasoned trekker or just starting out on your hiking adventures, understanding how to properly fuel for those adventures is key to staying safe and enjoying the experience. We're going to dive into everything from hydration strategies, caloric needs, and even how to recover after a long day on the trail. But first, let's find a place to set up our chair and get some food cooking, because I am cold and I am hungry. Staying hydrated is absolutely critical. Dehydration can actually lead to all kinds of serious health conditions. Not only will it cause headaches, brain fog, you could potentially have some cognitive issues, but it can also lead to heat exhaustion and heat stroke. And believe it or not, on cold days like today, staying hydrated is just as critically important, because you don't necessarily realize you're thirsty because you're spending so much time trying to stay warm. So hydration isn't just about drinking when you're thirsty. It's about being proactive and drinking periodically throughout the day and before you begin your hike in the first place. The typical recommendation is to drink at least half of your body weight in ounces every day. So, for example, if you are 150 pounds, then you should be drinking a minimum of 75 ounces of water on a daily basis. Now, this number is going to completely change depending on the intensity of your hike. For example, if you're doing a casual stroll through the woods, you're probably not going to be burning, that much energy, and you're not going to be sweating that much. But if you're doing a mountain trek or you're ascending or descending mountain slopes, then you could actually lose up to 2 to 3 liters an hour. Again, depending on the intensity of your hike. A good rule of thumb is to try and drink at least 1 liter of water for every hour of hiking. Now, again, depending on the climate, the weather, and conditions, that could be up to 2 to 3 liters of water. You're going to have to just gauge it based off of the level of your intensity. Electrolyte drinks and powders can be a great option. They help replenish the sodium and potassium that you lose through your sweat. But I highly recommend avoid anything that has added sugars. You're going to try and avoid sugar at all costs. Sugar gives you that spike and crash, and we do not want that when we're out there on a hike. If you're in an area like this where there's a natural water supply, then I would highly recommend carrying a water filter with you. That'll really reduce the amount of weight you have to carry on your trail, because you won't need to pack in as much water. Now, there are tons of filter options out there, so I'm not going to tell you what's best, but what I would recommend is choose the filter that's right for your adventure. For example, if you're on an ultralight backpacking trip and weight is of the essence, then you might want to carry like a Sawyer Squeeze or a Ketadine B-Free. If you're not worried about the weight and you're more worried about the ease of use, then I love my Grail GeoPress. It's heavy, but it is simple. Now, on weather like this, it's critically important that you remember to take care of your filter, because your filter membranes will freeze and then it'll completely ruin the effectiveness. So I always take my filter and put it in a Ziploc bag to make sure there isn't any water residue that could get out into my pack. And then I actually tuck it into a pocket of my jacket, which is going to keep it close to my body and give it that extra warmth from my body temperature. Another important part of hiking nutrition to talk about is fueling. Hiking burns calories, there's no doubt about that. It might be a low impact activity, but it is a high caloric burning activity. An average moderate hike is going to burn between 200 to 300 calories per hour. A more intense hike could burn between 300 and 500 calories per hour. Now, that's a lot of calories burnt, so you need to figure out what calories should you be intaking in order to offset that loss and prevent any muscle fatigue or burnout along your hike. I do want to stress again, everybody is different. So your caloric needs are going to be very personalized to your physical fitness, your health, and what your fueling strategy is. These are just guidelines. So please don't pack on extra calories just because Jeremy said it was okay to eat 500 calories an hour. Just because I tend to overeat doesn't mean you should also. You're going to want to focus on nutrient-rich foods. The idea is to have the highest caloric density and fueling density possible in the smallest packaging. I love these RX bars or my Lara bars because they're very simple ingredients. There's no sugar in them, just good solid carbs and proteins in order to help fuel your muscles and help retain that muscle strength as you start to burn those calories and carbs throughout the day. Trying to find a better camera angle and I just dumped half of my soup out. Now I have to pack it with snow and hope there's still enough flavor in there. That's the dangers of trying to film in the snow. I just completely knocked the cup off of my stove and dumped out half the soup and the seasoning. So I've packed it full of snow again and we'll let it melt down and keep cooking up those noodles. All right. So let's get back into some food options. Now, if you're not into the different trail mixes or fruit bars or granola things, then another great option could be dried meats, dried fruits, both high in protein, high in natural sugars and carbohydrates. A handful of almonds is actually equivalent to most of your protein bars when it comes to nutritional value. So you don't need to overcomplicate it. Fruits, vegetables are always a great option. Just make sure you're looking at lean proteins, something that's going to give you quick bursts of protein and sustained carbohydrates. So when I talk about carbohydrates, I'm not talking about chips and the snacks that we deal with normally. I'm talking about your complex carbohydrates. And that's your whole grains, and again, back to your nuts. Whole wheat breads, whole grain breads are a great option. Just something that's a little bit simpler to consume and less processed. Now, if you're out on a longer extended hike, maybe an overnight backpacking trip, then there are some great easy to cook options for food also. And there is nothing better than a hot meal at the end of the day or lunch after a rigorous early morning hike. Some folks like the dehydrated prepared meals. I'm personally not a huge fan of them, because what I found is for just a couple of dollars and a little bit of planning, you can build out your own prepared meal that you can cook for a fraction of the price and a lot better quality on flavor and nutritional value. Now, if you want some more detailed cooking ideas, I'll leave a link for a video grouping that I have that goes over some different trail meals. There's some tons of wonderful options out there. But again, focus on those protein and carbohydrate rich foods. Anything to refuel that body. It's a lot waterier than it should be, but still good. Just because you've finished your hike does not mean you've finished your nutrition or your fueling plan for the day. Recovery fueling is just as important as fueling for the initial hike itself. When we're fueling for our recovery, we want to focus on some simple proteins, that's your fish or chicken, and complex carbohydrates. You could focus on some whole grain breads, brown rice, and plenty of vegetables. This is going to give your body the protein and the carbohydrates it needs to rebuild the muscle density and help the muscles grow for the next adventure, and then restore your body's natural balance. Now, I'm not saying don't run out there and get a bacon cheeseburger after a hike, because I think you guys know by now that is one of my go-tos. But you do want to focus on some sustainable energy for the future. So maybe avoid those bad choices on a daily basis and just save them for the bigger days. So I hope that took some of the mystery out of what your fueling and hydration requirements are when it comes to backpacking nutrition. Remember, your body is going to be different than your friends. What your physical needs are going to be very different than mine. Stick to the basic guidelines and you'll have a very happy, healthy, and successful hiking career in your future. Now, if you're new to the channel, thank you so much for stopping by and checking me out. I hope you consider hitting that like button and maybe subscribing to the channel for future content. For additional cooking videos, if you're interested in getting into that outdoor cooking experience, this will be your next watch. And until next time, folks, I hope to see you out there on the trail soon. Let's go for a walk.